right, welcome back. This is Matt from Jaggers Brewing Co. Welcome to the third episode of Beyond the Mash Tun. This is kind of crazy. It feels like both that it's just sped by and that it's been a while. I know this is a once a month little project that I'm doing, and I'm having fun. I hope everybody else is too. So far, so good. So I know this is a little bit different setup than the last couple times we've come together. So here I have a pre-prohibition lager going. I kind of decided last minute, all of a sudden, that I needed a lager on tap. This is one that I've brewed before, and we kind of had an unfortunate incident with it. Split O-ring leaked out like 3.5 gallons of beer out of the keg. So I really kind of missed that beer, so I wanted to go ahead and get that thing back in. And then on this side over here, we've actually got two meads and two ciders going. This mead here, right here, it's done with primary fermentation. It's already been racked off. It's stabilizing now. Just put in all the yeast killers and stuff in that. So that'll be going to the bottles here pretty soon. This cider here is pretty much done as well. We racked it to secondary, kind of waiting for it to clear. That one, it may not, it may not clear out, and then I started another cider Friday and then another mead Friday as well. Um, Over here, our drinks for tonight are going to be the subject of topic, like them or hate them. We've got a raw ale here, and then we have my summer jam also, if I get to it. This is the Lithuanian Farmhouse uh, um, recipe that I did. These two are actually the same recipe, more or less, just kind of different techniques or whatever. And we'll get into that in just a moment. Let me take a drink of water. Kind of been a hot day and my throat's kind of scratchy and itchy. I've kind of been congested all day. So, all right. So, raw ale. Cheers. Before we dive off into it today, I just want to remind everybody to make sure that they check the description for links that I will have that pertain to this subject, showing some research and stuff like that that I've done, and also some other resources available that I've found. Included also are going to be videos on the subject that I've done, brew days and other things. So this is kind of a big topic. I've got some notes here. Um, I didn't want to really miss anything. I know with these like big subjects, when it's just two people conversating over the course of time, like you can kind of get it all out there. But because I'm doing all the talking and you guys are doing all the listening, at least right now, before you start hitting the comment section, um, you know, that I wanted to make sure that I had a clear idea to be able to present to you guys. So, I was first introduced to raw ales, and this is kind of hard for me to say if it was directly or indirectly by Chip from Chop and Brew YouTube channel, and it was about the quake yeast. He really just started getting into it and was talking about it and introducing it to everybody. After that, I started to go down the path and look into more Quake type deals, and I understood a lot of that it was with raw ales. And so I found David Heath's YouTube channel, and I also found the gentleman that they both kind of kept referring back to. And I'm sorry if I mess up his name, but Lars Garstrol. I'm sorry, I'm pretty sure I hacked that, but I truly am sorry. But so I started doing more and more digging, found the Click registry, and kind of just started looking into all kinds of other tips and recommendations and all that on how to brew a raw ale. So here's this is probably, I don't know, the fifth or sixth one that I've brewed really, but this is technically, I guess, the fourth one that's making it onto the channel. So this video will be releasing here. It'll be a while before this one hits, but be on the lookout for it. So let's start with what is a raw ale. So is it a technique? Is it a style? I personally feel like it can nearly be used interchangeably. So on the technique front, I feel like, and it's a callback to the more basic and primal brewing, by getting back to like the roots of brewing, right? The main goal is essentially to not boil the wort. Though I have found through my research, people noting that short boils are acceptable in some cases, just as long as it doesn't affect the flavor or remove the general raw ale notes that you get. So those raw ale notes that I like to describe to people is obviously one kind of like a hazier beer, right? Because we have all these proteins. Oh, excuse me, left in the final product. Thicker mouthfeel, generally a lot more maltier kind of profile. In its kind of like when I say like thicker mouthfeel, I'm not talking like chewy or anything like that. Kind of like hazy IPA. Kind of meets like a Hefeweizen or something of that nature. Kind of like medium to heavier, fuller body type beer, but not like Russian Imperial Stout or anything like that, where it's big and it's bold. It's definitely present. It's just not huge. Um, so and all in all, it's just a simpler way to brew with less equipment. Okay. Um, Now, kind of like getting back to the uh, olden days, the before times, whatever you want to call it, right? So kettles were expensive to get a hold of. Um, it was kind of one of those things where a lot of people didn't want to use a lot of fuel to be able to boil water when they still had to cook and clean and do all these other things, right? So you had a lot of points where this was kind of more of a natural or easier way to be able to um, preserve some of your harvest or be able to have some kind of alcoholic drink, right? Now, uh, like I said, we had uh, the price blockage of being able to afford kettles. So as kettles kind of became more and more affordable, more commonplace, made out of different materials and all that, you'll start seeing more and more people kind of shifting away from kind of like the raw ale, essentially brewing and brewing styles. Now, as time goes on, there's certain pockets of places that, like on the homestead, on the farmstead, kind of more rural or remote places where this tradition of brewing like this is still more present today than ever before. Um, when we talk a lot about like the regional raw ales and quake and in like original like homestead farmstead type yeast and all that, a lot of these brews are put together for celebrations like weddings and people's homecomings and birthdays and all that. And so they're kind of like miniature fest beers, where someone's gonna be brewing up, 5, 10, something gallons like that, and it's gonna be gone in quick succession, uh, over the course of a day or just shortly after that. So, uh, the preservation of these beers, like they've got a little bit shorter of a shelf life, for them sticking around. Now, from the style standpoint, this is where the line is blurred a little bit. While there is not an exact style or category that is assigned or classified as raw ale or subcategories that are, there are more than a few styles that can be brewed with this technique and maybe even benefit from being brewed this way. You're not locked into brewing to just one style or one sub or two styles or subcategories by doing just raw ale. The technique leaves things wide open, but given the drastic differences that it produces, I believe that we are borderline talking about different styles, right? So if you take, say, a Hefeweizen and you're not going to boil it, I think that with the characteristics that this helps deliver, I think that you're pulling it away a little bit more from the classic style, and you're kind of almost creating something different. You're still using some of the same ingredients, some of the other same techniques when it comes to like fermentation and stuff like that. But all in all, you get a little bit of different of a profile. And so I think that sometimes these things are so drastic that it, like I said, it's almost a different style. Now when you compare these two things, right? So they're both farmhouses, right? They're both saison type deal. And so that nomenclature there, you know, even though one's boiled and one isn't, even though that these things are the same but they're different, that style or that category or that nomenclature, it has a wide open road there. Whereas like some of these other classic styles like German beers or some of the American beers or whatever, you're very distinctly told that you have to do this, that you need to use these types of hops and this series of yeast or whatever the case may be. Um, and fortunately or unfortunately enough, however you want to view it, things like saisons, farmhouses, all that, they don't have to pertain to that. So you can kind of have some more of the off the wall stuff where I guess technically, this stuff kind of fits in too. But I guess I'm kind of getting away from where I wanted to, which is the whole reason why I wrote this to so that way I wouldn't go off on any weird tangents. But needless to say, I personally feel like because the lines get blurred a little bit and we're changing things so drastically, that we could probably advocate that it's both a technique and a style within it in itself, if that makes any sense to you. So, let's see here. Now, let's get on to kind of more or less some of the brewing side of things and the preparations and all that. So depending on the plan of your brew day for a raw ale, it can be more or less complicated than any of your other average brew days. Um, I often find that when I'm brewing a raw ale that my time spent brewing is less. My time cleaning up is more or less the same. I've got more or less the same amount of equipment to clean up and or get ready for the most part, just kind of depending on what I'm doing. A lot of these raw ales, I'll use a heated fermentation for it when I'm brewing with clay, which is a whole nother deal. I didn't do it with this one, but generally you're not going to run a heater, right, for your fermentation. So that while you do take away maybe some equipment on one side, you are maybe possibly adding equipment on the other side. Let's see here. Let's talk about the preparations for a raw ale. Um, so you'll often find that juniper berries and branches are used in both the water, in the lautering part of the filtering for the water and the grains. The use of juniper, juniper, uh, helps make the water and wort antiseptic, while also imparting some flavor components to the overall beer. I have seen some other examples of some woods used, but I was not able to find those examples in preparation for this episode. I wanted to be able to list out the other things that I'd seen. I'm pretty sure that I have seen pine, and I want to say I think ash used. Um, for being able to lauter and all that. I'm sure you could probably use spruce and spruce tips as well. I know spruce tips there for a while was used in beer, especially for like seagoing um, like ventures and beers that were meant for like crews on ships and stuff like that, to kind of help prevent scurvy and all that. But so that's one thing to kind of take into consideration. I have yet to use any juniper in any of my raw ales. I actually have access to a lot of berries. I'm sure if I asked, I could get some branches and some new growth and stuff like that. But I was just gifted like probably about, I don't know, a pound or two of some berries. Plus I've got some other berries in the fridge. I keep saying, "Oh, the next time I do it, I'll do it." But this keg is kind of earmarked for something special, so stay tuned for that on the other channel. Which, if you haven't checked that out, it's ferMentors. Links in the description. That's gonna be a fun time. Let's see here. As far as water adjustments go, I normally just use regular old RO water. The next go round, I'm probably going to use spring water. I know that through my research, I have found that a lot of people don't normally do any kind of adjustments to it, and if they do, it's kind of more of a softer water profile. That's probably, like I said, I'm either gonna probably try to use spring water the next go round, or I'll probably try to create some kind of soft water profile for the next beer that I use, which I will probably try to at least use those juniper berries. Excuse me. Oh. So for the mash and lautering, I've only ever used single infusion myself, but I've seen people use step mashing also for those. Basically, you're just trying to keep those temperatures down. You don't want to get really above like 170, you know. Now for sparging, I've seen people sparging and filtering also done optionally with the mentioned juniper and other such branches. Additionally, at the end of the mash, this is when I will normally pour in my hop tea. Some people I'm sorry. Some people use this sparging also at this time to add enough water to help, or hot water to help pasteurize the wort. I'll talk about what I do for pasteurization here in just a second, but yeah, you're wanting to keep, you know, those temperatures down from like DMS forming, right? And so the idea though too is like when you're using those branches and needles and stuff like that, you're just creating like a filter bed, kind of a lot similar to like a brew in a bag does when you're going to pull up those grains, or those like all-in-one systems. I saw a really cool one not too long ago some guy had like his kettle kind of elevated, and then he had a valve, on it, and he had like a branch. It looked a lot like a pine branch, could have been a juniper branch. It's fairly long though, fairly straight, and he had nicked a groove all the way down it, and he ran his wort down that branch limb into another kettle, essentially that had some like uh, branches and like those juniper branches and pine tree branches is what it looked like to me, with needles and all that to help filter out. So I thought that that was pretty cool. Here I am going off on tangents again. So speaking of pasteurization, I normally shoot for raising the temperature after I've pulled my grains out up to about 165 for 15 minutes. 163, 165. The way I look at it is that's kind of a little bit better than milk gets for pasteurization. And from my experience in my research, I've seen that DMS forms right about 170 or so, and I feel like that 5 degree threshold there. I've got 5 degrees wiggle room there, so I'm normally like right on my gas valve to watch my temperature. But um, the so trying to keep the DMS off of there. I've recently have read not terribly long ago that like DMS can form as low as 140 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know if that's true or not. I personally have not ever experienced any DMS on any of the raw ales that I've made. Nobody that I know of has ever complained of DMS or any of the like off flavors that DMS presents. So I think I'm gonna keep sticking to doing it this way. I don't see anything wrong with it personally right now. I think I'm doing okay with it. Um, so for bittering, balancing, and uh, preservation, sorry, all three of these is why I use a hop tea. So a hop tea is basically a small amount of water that has had all the normal hop additions added to it while it is boiling, such as you would do for a standard boiling of the wort. I'll normally add my yeast nutrients to this hop tea. So, if you got a 60-minute addition, you got a 30-minute addition. If you go and you look in the description, I've got like basically a basic hop tea that I use with the water additions there. So I'll throw, once it starts boiling, I treat it just like I do wort. I'll throw in my 60-minute addition, and then I'll throw in any other additions that I have, and then I throw in my yeast nutrient like I normally would in my boil. The only thing that I'm honestly leaving out during this deal that I would normally throw in at a boil as a boil addition is my Warflock tablet. I don't think the style really calls for being clean, crisp, and clear. I think cloudy, hazy, and opaque or whatever is kind of a trademark of it. So I'm not that worried about it. Again, Juniper is often used by the older techniques to help promote this step and will help add flavor compounds. There again, I haven't used any of the juniper or anything like that. Now you can use other spices too that would normally like try to keep away like bugs and rodents and you know to help try to help with like bacteria and wild yeast and all that. You're trying to make a decent environment for the yeast that you're pitching. I guess you could make the argument like you really haven't boiled, so you haven't sanitized it and the wort and all that. I don't know. I really feel like that this is a good way to make beer, and I guess there's something to be said with the spice additions and stuff like that. Like I've never personally done it. I've seen people do it. It looks like it turns out well. You know, I guess at some point in time, I'm just gonna have to try it and be crazy, right? Um, so packaging. Packaging can be done in whatever your favorite handling of this process is. Um, my first go around was that I bottle conditioned mine and it was fully carved and ready to go only after a week of priming. I have since started kegging mine. I have noticed that it seems like weeks 3 to 5 are often the prime of the beer, okay? At about week 6 or so, it seems to start to drop off a little bit. Not bad. It's just starting to not be like quite as fresh tasting and as interesting. By week 8, it definitely doesn't have that fresh taste anymore, and or really hits any of those notes that we've come to know and or hopefully like as far as the raw ale. So, all in all, other than the shelf life, I can't really think of a reason why not to brew one. Um, I really feel like raw ales leave a lot of open room and variables and places to play in um, in that style or technique, right? And I really think that everybody should try to brew one at one point in time, if not just for the experience. I feel like you can learn a few things from it. You know, you have to take into account things like your water, right? So you're gonna have water absorption, but you're not gonna have any boil off. So you're gonna have to play around with that a little bit. I've learned that right around a gallon, I need a gallon less than what I would normally use. Seems to head in just right. And I mean, these two beers came out exact, right? Same starting gravity, same finishing gravity, same ABV. So I feel like I hit the nail on the head with that calculation there. Um, Other than that, like I really um, can't really think of anything else to help advocate for doing this other than why not? Why not try something different? Why not try something new? Um, I think that they're unique enough, and looking at them as a whole, like regionally wise, like you start looking like at the Lithuania and Norway and Estonia and just all those places around there that have brewing styles and techniques like this or that are similar, like they're all kind of region locked a little bit until I guess more recently, like they've kind of started to become more modernized. The word's getting out about these places and what they're doing and all that, and has been for the last, maybe 10 years or so. But the way that some of these places are kind of like building their character, right? So we know that a satay should taste, smell, feel like this, and that's a raw ale. That's one that comes off the top of my head that's actually recognized on the BJCP as it can be a raw ale. It doesn't have to be, but it can be. And it seems like it is done that way historically anyways. Um, but you'll never taste anything like this commercially, really. Um, they're not really produced commercially for selling. There are a couple, of course, they're overseas. They're kind of back more towards the Norway area and all that. I'm sure that there's probably some American commercial brewery somewhere that makes them. Um, I I think that. you're probably going to have a hard time if you're not in that community or that state or whatever being able to purchase one. It seems like something that like a raw ale would probably be considered like, oh, it's unpasteurized, it's unfiltered, so it can't be sold over state lines or something like that. I've seen some of those kind of things happen, right? Like kind of like milk and all that. But you know, not trying to get political or anything like that, but that's about it. Uh, I mean, have you brewed one? If you haven't, what's the thing that's stopping you? What can I do to help you brew a raw ale? Thank you guys so much for coming and hanging out here with me, listening to obviously my silly shenanigans and ramblings, even though that I thought I did a good job trying to keep myself on track with these papers here. But um, if you haven't done it yet, it really would mean a lot to me if you subscribe to the channel. If you check out the other channel ferMentors, links to that and everything else that I do will be in the description. Cheers. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. Raw ale for life.